when people see issues in their business's numbers or their data, it's a terrible business idea to say, I'll deal with that next month, next week, next quarter, next year, whatever. Problems need to be dealt with today. And if they can't be, like, people shouldn't sleep. In a well-run, as crazy as that sounds, like, someone in the company should be working their butt off to solve every single problem that exists today. Not every single opportunity, mind you. I'm not saying every single opportunity, but every single problem.
Do you realize that your business has two stories running at once? The one you're telling the world and the one your numbers are telling you. And how well those two stories are aligned is where you either break through or break down. But you feel a knot in your stomach every time someone mentions cash flow, unit economics, or financial strategy because the CFO level thinking you need to truly understand the narrative behind your numbers has always been priced for companies 10 times your size. Hello and welcome to the Business of Story. I'm Park Howell. Today, Nick Jain joins us. He's the co-founder of Eagle Rock CFO, bringing Fortune 500 level financial advisory to $5 million to $50 million businesses. He's a Harvard MBA who graduated at the top of his class, and he's turned around or scaled 3 companies with up to $100 million in revenue across trucking, software, and e-commerce. You will learn why cash flow isn't the same as profit, why the metrics that matter at $2 million in revenue will actually mislead you at $10 million, and a simple framework for thinking like a CFO. All that and more right here on the Business of Story. Hello, Nick. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Park.
All right, now you are throwing me a major curveball because, I've been doing this show for almost 11 years. And of course, everything we do is around brand, business, leadership, storytelling. And yet I've got a financial company showing up. And so some of my listeners might be thinking, oh my God, what's Park going to do? Take me down the whole VC road and what? But no, we're not going to do that. We're only going to kind of do that. What I'm really curious about is what you all are doing there at Eagle Rock, how you are differentiating yourselves in the market, and how you are telling that story.
Perfect. So that's a hard question, but I will try and answer it. So look, my business partner and I met at business school about a decade ago, and we realized we really liked 2 things. We liked finance and we liked data. And then we went and both worked on Wall Street respectively. And then a few months ago, we got together and said, like, look, there's probably the time might be right to do something with AI. It is big, it is real, the technology's gotten smart. Where can we build a business around this? And we came up with a bunch of ideas, tested them with the market, a bunch sucked. But the one that we really stumbled upon was there's all these business owners out there that would love to have the CFO, the level of intelligence and ability that a $1 million a year CFO has. But the average business, even like a $50 million business, can't afford to get that caliber of individual, right? It's again, and this could be true in marketing, this could be true in operations, technology. Everyone would love to have Google's CTO be their CTO. You can't afford it, right? Unless your name happens to be Google, Apple, Facebook. There's 6 companies in the world that can do that, afford that guy.
Absolutely.
So where we landed was, look, we can offer really, really thoughtful, strategic financial advice that you would have to pay an elite consulting firm $500,000 a month for, or a CFO $1 million a year for pennies on the dollar. And so the story that's the business we landed on, where we tend to serve medium-sized businesses and give them great financial and operational advice. And the story that we tell is, look, you would love to have a great CFO and advisor, consigliere. You can't afford anyone who's as good as what your aspirations are. But not only do we have the background, we have all these fancy schools, Harvard Business School and Bain Capital, and and Stanford on our resumes, but more importantly, we are also leveraging this wonderful technology to give you value at cost, right? And that is something that is really resonating with people. When you have a bunch of people, the people that you see have fancy resumes, yet they're coming to serve you as advisors, as consultants, as friends, and they're doing sort of price point that's affordable. That's a really strong value proposition amongst like medium-sized business owners.
And you're obviously AI driven. I mean, most everything, if not all things you do through computer technology and AI. How are you set up? And even in the way you've done it, how could maybe some of our listeners take some cues from what you're doing and apply it in their world?
Sure. So we are AI native. Almost every single thing we do is done actually by AI. And I'll there's two basic things that happen in any business. Number one, you go out and find customers. And number two, you serve customers. This is true whether you're making burgers or you're selling software or you're providing professional service. You have to go find the customers and then you have to actually give them the product or service that you promised. And we use AI in both ends. So on the marketing front, it's pretty easy. We're using a kind of all AI native tools that are writing our emails, that are writing our SEO content, that are optimizing our website, that are responding to customers. And those are off the rack technologies that I really encourage your audience to use. There's a million of them out there. Pick whichever one you like. They're all reasonably cheap and affordable at like $20 a month or so. And again, there's a million of them out there. But I think the place where we are differentiated, and I think your audience could really leverage that, is then using the AI to do the actual work inside. So after you've won the customer, after they've given you their money, and they want you to do, a consulting service for them or set up a website for them, using AI to do that. And I'll provide a very practical example. So in my business, I analyze somebody's business. So let's say a $20 million revenue Hollywood studio, and figure out, hey, how do you make more money next month? Grow your revenues, cut costs, etc. The way it historically would have done it would be I'd get them to send me data, I'd open up Excel, do a bunch of analysis, make a pretty PowerPoint, and send it to them. And that would take, 2 weeks or so. Now that data comes in, I don't even open the data file anymore. I literally tell so I'm using Claude Code, but there's a couple copycats out there. I open up Claude Code and say, here, a client sent me this data. Here's who the client is. Here's the industry. Open up the file, analyze it, do whatever you want. Give me a PDF with what the analysis is. And I come back 20 minutes later, and it's beautiful. It has compressed 60 hours of work down to 20. But now the important thing is that level of gain is possible in almost any white collar work, but it is only possible if you start going what I call code native, meaning you get out of all the tools that look like software or applications, and you open up a terminal, like a big black screen on either your Macintosh or PC, and just talk to a coding agent instead of a typical chatbot agent. Because the coding agent has this wonderful thing where they can kind of do anything you tell them to. Whereas your chatbot, all it can do is like basically respond back to you. A coding agent can literally, like, sometimes it's Googling the web, sometimes it's making PDFs, sometimes it's doing research, sometimes it's writing Python scripts to do complex data analysis. It can kind of do it all as long as it's in the digital world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So as I understand Eagle Rock, and maybe I don't have it quite right, is that I was first thinking you were a venture capital company, but it sounds like you're also a service provider that you can bring in fractional CFO services to companies that can't afford the $1 million CFO.
Yeah, so exactly. We actually started out, we built this amazing technology and we're like, how do we make money off of it? What our technology did was it analyzes businesses. And our first idea was, hey, this is a great way to invest in other businesses. So we started a small venture capital firm and realized like that works, but then you have to wait 5 or 10 years for those venture capital bets to actually pay off and for you to make money and for you to pay rent. So how do we make money today? And turns out, we use that exact same technology, stuck a different website and wrapper and PDF on top of it, but it's this wonderful technology engine that just analyzes businesses and figures out how to make them better.
So I fed, of course, your Eagle Rock website to our Story Cycle Genie that does what you're talking about in the finance world, but it does it in the brand storytelling world. So the discovery that I got would have taken me weeks to figure it out. And of course, it took me a couple of minutes when it fed into and reviewed your website. Let me read the positioning statement it came up for you, because I don't think it's quite right. And I'm just curious of how you would maybe, from everything you told me right here, it said, let me pull it up right here. Eagle Rock VC is the only AI native venture capital firm that combines institutional grade investment judgment with systematic market signal analysis across 200 plus data points, delivering 100x evaluation coverage and 24-hour decision capability to find exceptional founders and companies before the market knows they exist. So to me, that sounds like your first, launch into the VC world. But then, like you said, man, that's going to take 5 years to really pay off. How do we take the same technology and make it that fractional CFO capability for companies? Am I right on that?
Yes, and by the way, your positioning statement is absolutely correct for our VC business. That website is still up, but that's a, slow burn business because a VC investment takes 5 or 10 years to pay off.
Yeah.
Um, so we still have that website up. Your tool did exactly the right analysis, and its positioning statement is exactly correct. Eagle Rock AI VC is the first AI native venture capital firm. We're very, very small and tiny, but
Hmm.
it is the first, and it is very, very thoughtful because AI is doing the investment decision making rather than humans. And then we, as you said, we pivoted this technology to say, like, hey, how can we make money off of it today
Yeah.
rather than 10 years from now? Because rent is due today, obviously.
Right, right. Do you have a different website that you send people
Yeah.
to
So
for
the,
that?
the, the website that we're using for our CFO business is eaglerockcfo.com. Um, yeah. So eaglerockcfo.com is our website. That is where we are running our primary business right now, although we are, still have that VC firm running as because it's just a slow burn process.
Yeah, I get you. No, that totally makes sense. So it only went in and reviewed Eagle Rock. I am now going to have, while we're talking, I am now going to have the Genie go in and review Eagle Rock CFO, and you are going to learn right alongside with me what it comes up with. How's that sound?
I am excited about it.
New brand. I'm going to put it in there, eaglerockcfo.com. I just loaded it up. We'll get back to it because it's going to take a couple of minutes to do its thing. But I just think that's interesting because I didn't realize that side of your business. So
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that with us.
we only migrated emails. Again, we'd been doing the VC side for about nearly a year. The VC, so that was taking off. But then, as our CFO business took off, we launched that, started making money off of it.
Yeah,
And then we didn't want to switch over our email because we were already communicating with people. So that's why it may have thrown
sure.
you off.
Totally makes sense.
We finally switched over our email like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So let's go back to that company that may, use your fractional CFO services through Eagle Rock CFO. But let's think about the numbers, the narrative behind the numbers. What are some big mistakes that we make out there? Now, you are, Harvard educated. You work for Bain. You've got, you're
I
the
wouldn't
top
put
of the
too
rock
much.
in the
I
financial
wouldn't
world.
put too much, credence on the fancy schools. You learn less than you might think.
But I ran an ad agency, my own agency for 20 years, and one of the things I was not didn't do a lot of finance education and ever, but I had a pretty good sense of where the numbers were and made money and how to do that. But what are some of the stories that you find companies tell themselves about their numbers that are just wrong? They're looking at them in the wrong way.
I think the two biggest, I'll give three ones. The
All
first
right.
is numbers don't matter because we are driven by vision. That's number one. Companies where they don't even care about the numbers, and this is not just financial numbers, marketing numbers, operating numbers, sales numbers. Companies that are driven by vision and the belief that like gut feel supersedes numbers. That's
Hmm.
common theme one. Number two is we will grow our way to success. There's lots of companies that have what's called negative unit economics. So it's like imagine McDonald's selling a burger, but every burger they sell loses money. Selling a million burgers doesn't make you profitable. It just makes you lose a million times as much money as selling one burger. So
Right.
there's a lot of businesses that are growing themselves to success. And then the third thing is numbers say we are inefficient today, but we'll take care of that tomorrow. um, kind of passing the buck, saying it's not a big issue today. I don't have to deal with it today. But the problem is problems compound over time, right? If you don't, for example, if you don't wash your hair, it gets incrementally naughtier over time, and it becomes that much harder when you finally try and take a shower and comb your hair, right? If somebody wants to try, don't shower for a month and see what happens to your hair, right? um, I don't recommend that, honestly. um,
So
so
so that
go ahead.
first one, when you're saying, vision over the numbers, is it that they are so wrapped up in their story of their vision and what they're trying to achieve that they're like, "Oh, the numbers will follow, we'll eventually make money," and so they don't pay attention to it?
No, I think people that's kind of the first, that's the more charitable interpretation. I think that there's a more kind of negative interpretation that people think that, look, we are all human beings. We care about emotions and relationships and kind of the stories we tell, and those are important, but not to the exclusion of evidence or facts or numbers or data, right?
Mhm.
It is, what is kind of special about ourselves as human beings is not that we are good with numbers. It is also not that we love each other and have emotions. Animals have those, and computers can handle numbers. We're kind of special because we can both think and have relationships and tell stories and have these things that exist bigger than ourselves. And I think there's certain types of leaders that sometimes focus so much on kind of like the human element, the vision, the story, the relationships, that they forget that the numbers matter equally much. Numbers, data, whatever, the logic
Hmm.
of the universe matters equally much.
Hmm. So do you feel like they get so enthralled with their vision and mission that they're not paying as much attention
Exactly,
to the
right?
numbers as
Or
they
they could
should?
say it just doesn't matter. We're just so successful that we don't have to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
That like success doesn't change facts ultimately. Like you could be making $1 billion, but you still kind of got do need to know, is it a billion? Is it 940 million? Is it a billion five? Those are all very different numbers.
Yeah. On your second one where people grow themselves out of business, I think it was, the sentiment you had there. I learned that at a very young age. My dad was a civil engineer. They ran a huge construction company, well, and built big projects, dams and tunnels and, stuff like that up out of Seattle, Constructors Pamco. And I remember being a very young man and one day learned that one of his main competitors had gone out of business. They had actually been around longer than my dad's company had, but they'd gone out of business. And I've always heard him talk about them at the dinner table, right? And I said, Dad, they're always so successful. I mean, how much were they doing back then? This would be in the 60s. They were probably doing like 40 million in business, a lot anyways. And I said, how could they possibly go out of business if they, had that much coming in? And my dad made the very plain point of, it doesn't matter if your revenue if you're not making any money on it. And he
Exactly.
said he said they literally were losing so much money on the jobs they were taking because they were undercutting my dad's company to the point he said, "Take it. It's yours," because he knew they were gonna lose their ass on it. And they ultimately went out of business. And that was a real awakening for me as a young man.
No, I agree, right? Like revenue is great. You can't have profits without revenue, but you can absolutely have revenue without profits.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, while we're talking, we're gonna get to number 3 here in a second. It's already run your brand assessment and
Mhm.
your overall brand narrative strategy. So I won't read the entire assessment to you, of course, but let me just see what it says and see if it's close now that it's looking at your CFO side of business. Just scrolling through, boy, it gave me a lot of stuff here. There's the complete brand story, and I'll send this all over to you. And it says, still scrolling up, a lot of stuff here. So it says your target audience, your position. Here we go. Brand identity, Eagle Rock CFO. Current positioning analysis. It says Eagle Rock CFO positions as the only finance platform that combines AI powered analytics with human strategic guidance, offering a self serve dashboard entry point that upgrades to full fractional CFO support. And its core claim is you grow your business, now own your numbers. So how does that land
Perfect.
with you?
No,
Yeah?
exactly right. No objections, no modifications to the statement you just said.
Okay, cool. It says,
Which, as a
brand.
fun fact, by the way, part of the reason is because I spent a lot of time doing what's called metadata editing, so that
Yep.
any AI agent is going to really effectively understand what we try to communicate.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good. We have that built into the Genie as well. So any content you create in there, we have a search engine optimization Genie, part of our over 3 dozen experts inside the Story Cycle Genie that speak with each other and kind of do that same thing. But I'm really glad it means that you guys have done a really good job of writing the website.
Thank you. Well,
Diff-
our AI agents have done a very good job of writing the website.
Oh, there you go. And your differentiation pillars, AI-powered financial dashboards, free forever plan, no credit card required, fractional CFO tier staff by Harvard MBAs, although you've just discounted that, so that doesn't matter anymore.
I
Just
mean,
kidding.
people pay for it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
great for branding. It's great for branding. Let's put it that way. You talked about storytelling. Think of the story that having gone to Harvard tells.
yeah, yeah.
I don't necessarily think it adds IQ points, but it does tell a great story.
Absolutely does. Competitive positioning, it says, your landscape. Traditional fractional CFO firms, quote, or parentheses, no AI platforms. So you're positioning against them. pure SaaS financial analytics tool, no human guidance. Accounting firms expanding into advisory roles with no AI, and emerging AI native finance platforms that have no experienced operator teams. So it's looking at your competitive landscape out there. Do those sound like four of
Yeah.
the groups that you'd be competing against?
No, 100%. On one hand, we have either, just basically dashboarding tools that show you the numbers but don't tell you what they mean. And on the other hand, you have a bunch of folks, humans and technology companies, telling you how to run your company. And they're great at tech, but they've never actually run a real company before. And so my
Yeah.
business partner and I are, rare in the recently rare situation where we are both technical, so we can use AI properly and build AI based tools. And we've run or built between the two of us, four different companies.
Uh huh. Wow,
So
very
that's,
cool.
again, the market, we think the market will value people who actually have some, what's the term? Skinned knees, right?
Yep.
We've taken some beatings along the way. We've run real businesses, good and bad, and we're also technical. So that's a rare combination that we think we can position ourselves with.
Yeah. And it's saying here, the genie said your key differentiation opportunities, Eagle Rock CFO's strongest position is AI plus human combination. The software handles the data grind, the humans handle the strategy. This is genuinely rare, it says. Most competitors are either pure software or pure human service. The hybrid model at transparent, accessible pricing is the defensible territory. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, we put our prices on the website. There's no secret negotiations that happen. Like we're technically a professional services firm.
Yeah.
In that world, typically prices aren't quoted. It's all deal by deal basis. We just said, here's what we charge. It's on the website. We're honest about it up front.
Yeah.
And we don't. I mean, the reason we can be honest is we're like 5% the cost of anybody else out there.
Yeah, that helps, doesn't it? I mean, I've seen that with our Genie too. It reduces the time of doing brand story development from months down to maybe a day. It's really more like hours. And
Yeah.
what would have cost you 30 to 50 grand now costs you $199. I mean,
Exactly, right? And that
how can you argue with
you
it?
capture some of that benefit for yourself as the service provider, and then you pass on a lot of that to your customers. It's kind of a
Yeah.
win-win.
Yeah. Now, Nick, this provides a contrarian opportunity for you, and I just would love to get your take on it. And it says, while competitors debate, quote, AI versus CFO, end quote, Eagle Rock CFO can own the narrative that the best financial leadership isn't AI or a CFO. It's AI that makes your CFO or you dramatically more powerful. This mirrors the Eagle Rock VC positioning and creates a coherent family brand story.
So we agree. That's kind of the pitch that we are making with our self-serve software, where you don't even talk to the human being, but you use our technology, which we have white labeled for you. Yeah, I mean, your CFO or your CEO can use it yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, we agree with that approach.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you or your AI have written it well because it's coming through. So, anyways, it's fun for me whenever I have a guest on. When I don't really know their brand or what they're about, I run it through the Genie and get a really good insight. And so you feel, for the most part, what you're hearing is accurate there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Awesome. So we covered the first two challenges that we business owners have out there when we're looking at our numbers and thinking in story. What was the third one again, and how do you help people overcome that?
The third one was there's a problem that I see in the data or numbers today, but it's not a big problem, and I will deal with it tomorrow,
Hmm.
metaphorically tomorrow. Um, and the problem with that is problems tend to compound over time. That small problems that you don't deal with today, they may not become bigger problems tomorrow, but then you'll have lots more small problems to deal with tomorrow and the day after and the day after. So when people see issues in their business's numbers or their data, the plan should not be, it's a terrible business idea to say, I'll deal with that next month, next week, next quarter, next year, whatever. Problems need to be dealt with today. It's as very simple as that. Like all problems should be dealt with today. And if they can't be, like people shouldn't sleep in a well run, as crazy as that sounds, like someone in the company should be working their butt off to solve every single problem that exists today. Not every single opportunity, mind you. I'm not saying every single opportunity, but every single problem.
Every single problem. You hear that very trite, cliched tagline out there, solving tomorrow's problems today, or answering tomorrow's technology today, which just, you see it
I,
all
I'm
over the
I-
place.
I'm much less ambitious. I'm not about solving tomorrow's problems today. Let's just solve today's problems today.
Yeah, well, if I ever start my, procrastinator society, that's going to be my tagline. Solving today's problem tomorrow.
There's
And that,
what is it? There's a funny what is it? There's a funny poem on this. I can't. It's evading my mind, but literally about that sentiment that just putting everything off till tomorrow.
tomorrow. I want to look at, I did not in your brand story here, your position statement now for this. I'm curious how it works for you. Eagle Rock CFO is the only financial platform that combines AI-powered real-time analytics with elite fractional CFO expertise, giving growing businesses the financial clarity and strategic guidance of a world-class finance team at a price and flexibility that scales with them.
So yes, we agree, right? Like the imperative thing there was the second clause, which says like elite CFO experience. I've been the CFO of $100 million revenue company, and my business partner has founded a similar sized company. So we've run real companies, and that I think resonates with our customers because they're not just getting a bunch of like tech engineering people; they're getting people who are business leaders who happen to have experience with technology.
So, yeah, I was just asking it. It gave me a UVP that I'm not crazy about. It's like lead with confidence, which is fine. It seemed a little bit generic, but I'm just asking it. Give me 3 versions on that based off of your expertise. I think you had said something in there that was more interesting than what it came up with. So, what would you tell that your ideal customer out there that they need to be doing right now? They may or may not be considering Eagle Rock,
Yeah.
CFO, but
So
what would
look,
you have them do?
yeah, our customers tend to be those mid-sized businesses, $5 to $50 million in revenue, any industry. They tend to be legitimate businesses. When you hit 5 million or $30 million in revenue, you're very legitimate business. Um, Whether or not they use us, my kind of friendly advice is have someone on your team. It could be a friend, it could be a wife, it could be a husband, it could be an employee, junior, senior, whatever, who just spends a day a week just looking at the numbers, just staring at them. And these could be your marketing numbers, your warehouse numbers, your profit numbers, whatever it is, right? Like just have someone who one day a week just stares at the data. And I think that will unlock tremendous amounts of value. And again, it could be your spouse, it could be the CEO's spouse, right? It could be your
Mhm,
wife, your husband, whatever. Have him or her just spend a day a week looking at it, or a day a month even, right? And you will find incredible opportunities to improve the business when you kind of let people, look at data and ask them the abstract question, how do we get better?
mhm. Do you find it sounds like maybe you do, I'm gonna answer my own question here. So, in the 20 years I ran my ad agency, a lot of our business came from people just like you're talking about. They've got a $5 to $10 million business. They're making money. They've got a really great business model. They actually have operations pretty well dialed in. And they would come to us and say, we think we're leaving a lot of money on the table because we don't have a clear brand story. We don't really know how to talk about ourselves. We've been successful despite having a brand story. But now we are concerned about the revenue that we are leaving on the table because we're not telling a compelling story. And so we would help them do that. Is it essentially the same thing in your world that they're successful because they have a great model and but they haven't been paying attention to the numbers because it hasn't bit them in the ass yet?
Well, we have customers on both sides of that spectrum. We have customers that are incredibly successful in spite of themselves, and then we have customers that are on the verge of bankruptcy because they've not run themselves well. So again, the discipline, right? Lack of discipline prevent. What is it? You can, if you have good genetics. The analogy I would draw is to genetics, right? If you have good genetics, you can be like reasonably skinny and lean, even if you are not very disciplined about your diet or your exercise. But you will never be an elite athlete. If you want to be an elite athlete, you have to apply discipline, right? In my world, that means discipline looking at how your business makes money, how it can make more money, how it can how it can spend less and make more revenue, right?
Mhm.
Um, but the point is really having discipline. And any elite athlete will tell you, they measure everything and then they apply ridiculous amounts of discipline, annoyingly so, when their coach tells them you have to do the same exercise 20 times a day, 20 times per set, 5 times a day at these specific times. They may not like it, but that's what gets them to the Olympics.
Mhm. So you guys come in and you are essentially their financial trainers to get them
Well,
there.
so we're not in the training business. We hope our customers pick some of the good habits off of us. Not too many, so they don't obviate the need for us. But we're I would say like the gym trainer you hire like once a week. We'll sit there with
Mhm.
you. We'll teach you the right exercises. We'll do the analysis for you, and we'll show you how we did it. But we hope you call us back again next month for the same thing. So we can make money, but we'll also find the next exercise for you to do when you kind of leveled up one level at a time.
Yeah. Now, do companies come to you, say they've been around for a long time and they're doing 10 million in business? They go, "We want to sell, but we need to get our financial,
Yes. So that's
numbers
a
in
business
order."
line we just launched that about a month ago. We admittedly have no customers on the sell. So if you think about it, our technology analyzes a business. It figures out if it's a good business, bad business, how to make it a better business. That has lots of use cases. The use case you just identified is it's time for me to sell. I'm, retiring or moving to a different country, whatever. Help us get ready for that sale. So we just launched that line of business in the past, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks. No customers on that, yes, but it's the exact same like approach to technology. The opposite side, where we are getting more people actively paying for it, is on the acquisition side. Hey, I'm thinking about acquiring this company. Help me figure out, is it a good company worth buying? So private equity
Mhm.
firms, search funders, just investors are calling us saying like, hey, should we buy this business? And they could spend typically on a diligence of any medium-sized business, you're going to spend roughly two to $300,000 diligencing that business seriously. If you're buying a $50 million business, we can obviously make that much much more affordable. Like what is it, roughly 10% the cost. Again, and we're very honest about this. The reason we can undercut so much on price and still have high or higher quality is because just have all these little agents running around doing all the work.
Mhm.
AI agents, I mean.
Is there a place on your website people can go and kind of test your product or get kind of a free little
Yeah,
sip
so
of
if
it?
if somebody goes to our website, eaglerockcfo.com, and clicks Get Started Free, you get access to our free version of the software, which includes two things. Number one, it includes dashboards of all your financials, just pretty graphs, descriptions of your revenue, your costs, that we give away free forever. The second piece is for 2 weeks, you get free trial to basically our self-serve AI agent, which will look through all your business and say, hey, Park, you need to make these three changes to your business right now. So that's obvious. That was only available for 2 weeks after you sign up, because obviously we want you then to eventually come become our customer if you want to continue using that technology.
Yeah, without a doubt. And do you also have a freebie for listeners if you're running a company greater than 5 million that you can give them a 30-minute cash flow
Yeah. So
diagnostic? Yeah.
if they are kind of above $5 million in revenue, they can book time on my calendar right on the website. Either myself or my business partner will hop on the call. And we will go through your entire business and like just as human to human, talk you through your business and say like, hey, here's how you could make your business better. And that's not a sales pitch. It's literally like we would love to just do right by by folks, because then eventually they'll call us back in 6 months and say like, look, we realized that wasn't a one time thing. We want that advisor kind of always in our ear or in our at our side.
Yeah. Awesome, man. They can find all that over at eaglerockcfo.com, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. While we were talking, I had it run several different UVPs because I wasn't crazy with the one it came up with. I kind of like this one. Machines handle your data, experts handle your future.
Oh, I
Hey,
like that. That's a
that ain't
good
bad.
branding line. I might steal.
You can steal
I
that.
like the rhetorical device there is parallelism.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll send this whole report over to you. You'll get the assessment and you'll get the complete narrative strategy because it literally built it all while you and I were talking right
No,
here.
we love this, right? Because we are business guys, we're finance guys when we're AI tech guys, right? We are not, well, minus a little bit of expertise on the SEO side. We're definitely not brand guys or marketers.
Yeah. Well, now you've got a tool as you're out there working with someone and they say, hey, man, we got to dial in this brand story. Just send them over to
No, we would.
storycyclegenie.ai.
Literally, our customers ask us for like expertise, particularly marketing expertise, but also sometimes like CTO expertise that we're like, theoretically, I could do this, but like, A, it's not my business model. B, like, I'll charge you more because I'll have to like reinvent the wheel here. We refer them to folks all the time and would love to have you amongst the kind of Rolodex of folks that we can call up or
Yeah,
pass
well,
off to.
that's awesome. Well, Nick, thank you so much for being here. We're sending people to your website. Any other places you want them to go to learn more about
No,
what you're doing?
nope. Eagle Rock CFO. It's got our contact information. It's got access to the free version of our software. It's got our, book our with our calendar. It has a bunch of educational resources. So no, that is the place to find anything about us on the web.
Well, it sounds like you've got a hell of a product there. Thank you so much for sharing it with us today on the Business of Story.
Thank you for having me on the show, Part.
Well, that was kind of a different show for us, and I hope you enjoyed it. Finding the narrative behind your numbers and really understanding what that story is telling you. If you enjoyed the show, share it with anyone you know who would benefit from Nick's advice. And if you do me a huge favor, jump over to any of the platforms where you get your shows, iTunes, Spotify, wherever, and give us a rating and review. It really helps us get found in the noisy world we all live in. And if you have yet to test the strength of your brand story on the Genie, do it right now over at storycyclegenie.ai. It's going to show you what you're doing well, what you could fix, and inspire you with new ways to tell your story. storycyclegenie.ai. I hope you'll join me next Monday, and until then, remember the most potent story you'll ever tell is a story you tell yourself. So make that one epic. Thanks so much for listening.